Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. 2020 will be filled with a series of tests. So why not get the year started off a little early with a series I ran via LinkedIn and YouTube, connecting the dots between some of my favorite holiday movies and lessons that apply to sales, business, and life. This is one of 5 episodes where we'll share 5 of the segments originally launched as videos. If you'd like to see the original videos, please check out the links in the show notes. This sprint is brought to you by the Catalyst Sale Sprint of the Month. These sprints are designed to help you put the concepts discussed in the podcast into practice in your business. Let's get started.
In Charlie Brown's Christmas, there's this scene where Lucy introduces Charlie Brown as the director. And immediately the response is, oh no, we were doomed. Charlie Brown's a blockhead. They go through this part where Charlie Brown now starts trying to take control of the situation, as a good director does, right? He comes in there and he lists out all the responsibilities. He tells people what their role is. He tries to control the situation. Well, you notice that the characters all start to get a bit disengaged. They're ignoring him. They're kind of boring. Well, even Snoopy boos when Charlie Brown's announced as director. Then the music starts going and everybody starts smiling and laughing and dancing, and the kids are having fun again. They're being kids. Then they go through another period where he calls kind of time out, tries to control the situation again, and you start to see that level of disengagement, the lack of fun. Music starts again. They start playing. They start smiling. They're laughing. They're dancing. They're enjoying themselves. What this reminds me of is how important it is to, even though you want to set expectations and put some guidelines out there, let your team do their job. Let your team be creative. Let your team just go out there and dance when they're doing the work that they do with clients. When they're doing the work, let your team dance. When they're doing the work that they do with clients, when they're doing the work that they do inside the organization, when they can dance, when they can be themselves, when they can be creative, it's amazing what can happen. It's amazing how much fun folks can have. So I'd like to hear from you how you identify opportunities for your team to be creative, to go out there and just dance and give them the flexibility to do their jobs. Remember, you hired them for a reason. You hired them so that they could level up your organization. You hired them to do a job. You didn't hire them so that you had to go around and micromanage them. So let off the control a little bit. We're going to go back to Elf. Well, one of the things that happens at the beginning of Elf is Buddy's adopted dad, Papa, brings him into the workshop and shows him Santa's sleigh. And they start doing some work on Santa's sleigh. What they're working on is some jet engine thing at the bottom of Santa's sleigh, which the sleigh needs in order to fly. Now, Buddy thought that it was the reindeer that made the Santa's sleigh fly and the magic that made Santa's sleigh fly. Well, it's the belief. It's that belief in Santa that creates that magic that helps the sleigh fly. There's a clausometer. So on Santa's sleigh, they've got a dashboard. This dashboard shows the amount of belief that's out there. As the amount of belief decreases, Santa's sleigh needs a little bit of a boost. As they move toward the end of the movie, they look at the clausometer, and the clausometer is down really, really low. But the jet engine isn't working on the sleigh. If you remember in the movie, as they take off, the jet hits something and falls off. Anyhow, as they go through, the people inside in the movie start singing. And as this singing happens, the belief starts to come back and the dashboard starts to increase. Well, there's one person who's just moving their lips. That's James Caan's character. James Caan's character, once he actually starts singing, it brings this belief and the dashboard goes all the way through. What this makes me think about are the metrics that we keep track of inside our organization. Not specifically around belief, but what's the data? What data points do you look at either on a daily basis, maybe a monthly basis, maybe a quarterly basis? What are some of those metrics that you look at to help determine whether or not your organization is performing at the way that it should? Do you have a single metric? In ELF, the single metric was the belief metric in the clausometer. What's your single metric inside your organization, and how does everybody else align with it? Add that to the comments below. I'd like to hear about your single metric, what's most important to you, and how does the rest of the team's objectives align with that number? Whether we're talking about a general number for the organization, which could be the single number, how does operations, how does product, how does sales, how does marketing, how do all of these groups align directly to contribute to that most important metric? In Rudolph, they've got the island of Misfit toys. In the Island of Misfit Toys, they've got a number of different toys that just don't belong. They got a squirt gun that squirts jelly, a train that has square wheels, a Jack-in-the-Box named Charlie. There are roles, there are places for all of these toys. As you can see at the end of the movie, Santa finds a home for each of the individual toys. So how do you identify the Rudolphs inside your organization? If you've not had a chance to read it, there's a great book out there called Rudolph Factor. I'll comment to Cindy inside the notes here. She authored this book on the C17 project. It's a book about entrepreneurship. When you find the misfits inside your organization, you can find those who are intrapreneurs, the ones with the entrepreneurial mindset, inside your organization. I'd love to hear in the comments how you apply an entrepreneurial mindset inside your organization. So I'm going to go back to Buddy the Elf. In Buddy the Elf, there's that scene where he comes into New York City and he looks at the window and he walks into the restaurant and yells at the top of his lungs, "Congratulations, you did it." What he was so excited about was the front window on the restaurant showed that they had the world's best cup of coffee. He looked at this as an award that they had won. Well, then he takes Emily out to dinner, out for something special on the day when they're going on their date. And he blindfolds her and takes her to this restaurant and says, "Put out your hands and try this." She tries it and she goes, "Ooh, it tastes like a crappy cup of coffee." And then she takes the blindfold off and says, "Oh, it is a crappy cup of coffee." What this highlights for me is the importance of presentation magic, but then beyond that is actually executing on that presentation magic. It's one thing to go out there and say, "This is the world's best experience. This is the most amazing thing. We're going to go ahead and build a world-class team and we're going to go out there and execute." It's a completely different thing to go out and do it. So yeah, it's okay to fake it till you make it, but be confident that you have the ability to actually make it, have the ability to execute. And you've got to test with those initial early customers. So I'd love to hear how you present ideas and concepts out in the marketplace from a testing perspective, and then how you turn around and actually execute on those ideas. So there's a little bit of presentation magic here. And then you've got to follow it up with execution, because if you don't follow it up with execution, you might just be a simple crappy cup of coffee. So as we wrap this up, a little bit of a surprise. I'm going to confirm beyond any reasonable doubt that Die Hard is actually a Christmas movie. Multiple times through the movie, they wish people Merry Christmas. They talk about Christmas. There's Christmas music. Ode to Joy is a theme that plays throughout. There are multiple references throughout the movie. It is absolutely a Christmas movie. It takes place during a Christmas party or a holiday party. Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. So, what lesson can we learn from Die Hard? Well, there's that scene where Hans stumbles upon John McClane. It's toward the end of the movie, and Hans all of a sudden shifts roles, and he plays the role of a victim inside the tower. When he plays this role of victim inside the tower, John's a little bit skeptical, but what Hans does is he takes a look at the list of names that are listed on the sheet behind John and says that his name is Bill Clay, which is one of the names that's listed on there. So that's one thing that you can take away from this. Keep in mind that people will play different roles in different organizations. Sometimes those roles will be gatekeeper, sometimes those roles will be friend, and sometimes they'll actually be a foe dressed up as a friend. Another lesson we can take away from the movie, and there's a couple of them. Another lesson that we can take away from the movie is the White Knight. So Ellis, I think is his name, tries to act as the White Knight. He tries to play well beyond his skis from a negotiation standpoint. He's going to come in and he's going to save the day. He's going to solve all the problems. He's the master negotiator. He's a great negotiator. He negotiates $1 million deals in his sleep or for breakfast or whatever it was that he said. Be careful if you're trying to play the role of the White Knight or the hero in the story. Remember, it's your customer's story. Let the customer be the hero. You can guide them through this process. Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand, highlights this really well and walks through a process associated with this. The thing that I want you to take away from this, though, is be careful if you find yourself playing the role of White Knight inside the story. If you're playing the role of White Knight inside the story, you may be acting above or beyond your skis. And then the last piece, the last story that I want you to take away from Die Hard. There's that scene where John has his first interaction with Al. And in his first interaction with Al, he gives some very detailed information. Now, the only reason he's able to give some detailed information is he actually puts together his account plan as he's working through the building. As he works through the building, he goes from floor 32 to 33, and he makes a mental note about what's under construction and where the computers are, the number of people that are playing the role of hostage, or the number of hostages that are in the building, and the number of people who are terrorists inside the building. Pay attention to the details. If you add these details to your account plan, you'll be in a much better position when you need to communicate to others as you get them involved in whatever project you're working on. It could be a learning and development project. It could be a multi-million-dollar account. And then in that case, maybe you have Elias as someone who can help you negotiate the deal.
Please let me know what you think via catalystsale.com, via the live chat, or via the Catalyst Sale Twitter handle. You can learn more about the sprint of the month by going to catalystsale.com and clicking on sprints. Thanks for listening. Sales is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about yours?